Okay, very good. So hi, everybody. I hope you're all having an okay day out there. And my instructions for the day were to probably discuss how to develop personal or interpersonal relationships with sellers, and or we can cover objections you may be hearing, and we can walk through them and talk through them and think through them. And they're just questions from sellers you may want answers to. Are you hearing me okay out there?
Yeah, I can hear you, Chicago.
Okay, great. So, regarding relationships with sellers, we've talked that over with many a new franchisee and an experienced franchisee, and we've found that if we can take ourselves into the kind of question mode, easy to be with mode, and not a selling mode, that it makes it a lot easier for the seller to build trust with yourself than it is to have them just feel like they're presented to. So I don't know if most of you have gone to the Sandler process or not, or taken that class, but if you haven't, I'd make that as a note to get to the first one you can. I've been blessed to see a lot of people who've come through that system, and immediately after, I almost want to say on the way home, but I know some have made phone calls and used a couple of the techniques they learned right there to be able to reset an appointment and get deals in place that they had been working on for some time. So, to me, the biggest thing that I found very useful when I was a franchisee myself, and we did like 63 contracts our first year, and I was doing all the buying, or pretty much all of it, and went around the country for 3 years helping franchisees start their business, and it ended up being that we ended up focusing and being a real student of that buying process. So if you can imagine coming from here and going to another area and buying for somebody, you sure wanted to be right. So learn to really slow down. Don't have any caffeine for at least a couple hours before you go, so you can be laid back, relaxed, kind of easy to be with. And then, a lot of folks are really great at that rapport and talking about pictures they see and relating that way with the customer. And I agree that rapport is, kind of important to create a little bond and a little acceptance, a little this person might be like me kind of thing. But to take it a step further, what I learned was to literally do an interview on the person's, just like if I were going to hire them for a job. Now, not that intense, but kind of like that. Because I learned that, like if I was sitting with, let's say, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, of course, I'd get the first name first and say, well, John, so let's see, how long have you been retired now? They'd tell you, 4 or 5 years. Okay, so what kind of work were you into? Oh, let's say I was with the phone company. Great. So how many years were you with them? They're going to tell you, right. So do you get a chance to kind of move up along the line, or you stay in a particular spot? And they go, I got promoted, I'm the manager. God bless you. You must have worked hard to get that done, so you can get into a nice, easy conversation, and they'll tell you all about it. Then you take, so what did you do before that? And you can take them almost back to high school. And, so where'd you and Mrs. Jones meet here? Oh, we met at college or met at high school. Oh, great. So you both from this area then, or where are your people from? And a lot of times they're from out of town or wherever, so you can talk about, so once you decided to, have us look at this house, were you thinking about going back and getting the family in another state because so many are? Or you thinking about moving across town? A lot of times grandparents going to be with grandchildren. Is that kind of what you want to do? And then tell me what that's like being with them folks. And then they just really get excited about that. And they literally, many times when you come in there and they were just kicking tires, so to speak, and looking at the process, we're going to do it in 4 or 5 months, but And you start talking about, let's see, we got the 4th of July coming up. And usually, what'd you do on the 4th of July? And it's really all that small talk. And they get talking about that. And they get talking about how exciting that's going to be to all be together again. And then they find themselves more motivated probably than they thought they would be. So one of the reasons I always like to get to that many interviews, because truly I'm interested in people anyway. Second piece is I learned that if I could take a real interest in, I mean a sincere interest, right? So like all of us got this red in us that's great in a lot of places, but I learned to use the word I needed to contain myself before I went into the call. I'd tell myself, gosh, I got to find the good in this person. I got to find the fun. I got to relax, let them relax. Let it be the best half hour to an hour of their life. That would condition me, so I wouldn't be a babbling brook and hearing my own conversation. That way I could just, play the interested kind of person to see what was going on in their life and tell them honestly, let's take a look to see if there's a chance we can help you. I don't know. We look at, 8 to 10 houses to buy one, so it doesn't got to be this one. One of the things most folks like, though, is, if we can make this have some good sense for the company here, that I'm going to put it all on my computer and it's going to tell me what to offer so I don't have to think. The company's about 70 to 80,000 houses already, so we know that system's solid. By the same token, they'll show up with the money on closing day. So I don't know about you, but most people got way more trust in a company than they would, me and my little white van outside, and they kind of look at you and you go, well, I would. I'd trust the company way over me. Do I look like I could buy a house? I'm just the buyer to see if I can bring something together. So if it makes some sense, the company has money to show up on closing day. And, we'll go through the process here, and I'll show you what it's going to cost you to use a realtor. I'll let the system tell me what it's worth, and the system will tell me what they'll pay, and then you'll be kind of probably pleased to know that, the company also sends out a local appraiser to appraise it, and that's the appraiser, is the one who makes the decisions as to what the house is worth as is, and then we show them what we're going to do to repair it, and then they'll appraise it for the after repair or retail value. So a nice new, family like your own who's starting out can come in and buy this house. So we follow a strict process, and they'll show you whether, if you take the house and want to sell it, fix it and sell it, the truth is you'd probably make more money. You've got the time and you got the money to do that. What a blessing. You'd make more. So let's just look at it. And let's realize a couple of things here. If you sell it or I sell it at retail, we're both going to have some similar costs here. It's going to be 3% for the listing side and 3% for the selling side. That's how realtors work. They don't all know. And then once that's accomplished, if it's an FHA buyer, and most folks are first-time home buyers that buy this kind of house, then, that's a government-funded process allowing the new buyer, the new family, to get in for only 3.5% down. And then they can ask you as the seller, or me as the seller, because you sold for me to fix, to come up to 6% of their closing costs. So as you can see, we got 3 for listing, 3 for selling, and up to 6. I don't know what it's going to be exactly. So we're near 9, 10, 11% here? Oh, then there's a couple percent closing costs, so it could be from 8 to 15%. That's whether you're fixing it, selling it, or I'm fixing it and selling it. So just kind of keep those costs in mind as we go through here. And then just let's keep in mind, if you want to have folks in and out the house, some people are okay with that, some people just don't want that. Or if you want to know exactly when you're going to close, we can probably help you with that, because we're not allowed to make a promise we can't keep. I mean, you got the 800 number. You can call company, right? So the company's done 75, 80,000 houses by now, so we're not we've had a lot of experience with a lot of different situations, and you can trust the company. So that's kind of a rattling, easy way to do things and talk to them in a very casual way. And I always learn to use the flip chart too, guys and gals. I don't know if you do or not. And I always tell them at least use the first 3 pages because that establishes for that customer your company. It's kind of like if you sold insurance, right? You wouldn't sell Larry's Insurance. You might sell State Farm. You might sell Allstate, or you might sell Farmers. In those cases, you're in there and you're sharing, here's what the company can do for you. I'm kind of the representative in between to see if we can make some sense out of it and see if there's a way we can move forward and help you with this. So this is kind of the same way. These are the people that know what they're doing, and I'm just the guy in the middle to see if we can bring it together and have it make some kind of sense. I've kind of rattled on here a bit. You want to get into some questions and discussion? Chicago. So, hello? Or should I go on, or does somebody have a conversation they want to have or a discussion?
No, I'm here. I'm just listening, Larry.
Okay. So tell me what kind of, just stuff you're running into. Sometimes if I can discuss with you something that popped up or you had a question on, just easier to have a conversation. Any thoughts along those lines?
Hey, Larry.
Yeah.
This is J.D. Hurley up in the Northeast.
Cool.
I'm a newer franchisee. I started at the beginning of the year.
All right.
And what we continually run into, in my experience so far, has been customers that have like an unreal expectation of what they're going to get for their house, or rather, they're not necessarily upside down on their loan, but they owe way more on their loan than we could possibly offer them.
All right. So kind of, can you give me an example, like let's deal with $100,000 retails, and then we can back off that and we can talk through. Can you break that up for me?
You like how yeah. So an example might be a house that was worth, say the ARV is $400,000, needs like $80,000 worth of work. And at $4,000, I can't do my math quick enough, but let's see. So
that's why I was going to take it to 100, so we could just back off that.
So like 260 minus 80. So if you took the 65% of 400,000, that's 260,000. You take the 80,000 off of that for the repairs, and you're down to 180. And they owe like 300 on their loan.
That's really the back side of the deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten that I don't know how many times at this point.
So here's what you might be able to do with a house like that. What's the retail going to be? $400K?
Yes.
And they owe $300, and it takes $80,000 to fix it. Right?
Yep.
So I guess you're doing the right thing by just telling them, gee, I'm so sorry, this isn't going to work out the way either of us wanted it to work out. I might be able to do an option agreement on that and see if I can go out to all the investors, rehabbers we have in the area. I used to say rehabber investors, and see if I can create a partnership to find a way to bring this together. And you can give me 30 to 60 days on that. We'll just write an option. We'll see what we can do. And then meanwhile, I can go out and try and find somebody that could get 10 or 20K out of it and put it in his lap. Because some of the other fixer-uppers, may not fix it at that level, they can do it for a lot less. Is that a fair way to say that?
Yeah.
I mean, because you're right. As far as us buying and trying to turn it and make something, there's just not enough room, is there?
Right.
Yeah. So you're in where, D.C., you said?
Well, outside of Boston.
Oh, Boston. Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah. Well, you're right. There's just not a deal to be made financially so you can come out on that. But you never can tell. The next rehabber may want to take it just to more of a hotel, right? So he might just do a fast brush up and clean up and remove it. Or some of these guys who are making their living rehabbing, they just do it for a lot less money. And so that's why I'd try and, on a situation like that example, I'd try and see if I can get an option so I can work with it for 30 days and see if you can find yourself a rehabber. I always used to say that'll partner up and come bring them together. Now, if they did and I was able to sign that for an extra $10,000, right, then I just let the customer know, say, hey, I had to take on a partner on this to help offset this thing, so we can do the $400 to you, and now then you create an assignment with this guy for an extra $10,000 or $20,000. I'm not sure what you can do there because you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, it's
it ain't going to work every time.
It's kind of on our to-do list is to actually grow our investor list outside of the home investor family. So far, we've only been able to reach out to other people's home investors to see if anybody else might have more room in a deal and be interested. But yeah, because there's been a few cases where we know we could help the people. They have a real need. They really want to get out of it for different reasons, but it just financially it just would be upside down the deal as soon as we closed on it.
Yeah. Once in a great while, you get somebody to bring some money to the table. I'm not going to say it's often. Please don't hear that in this statement. But once in a great while. So it's always a question, is there any way you can bring some money to the table to help bring this together? Most people can't, but once in a while, well, yeah, we want to save the credit, you know. What's their reason for moving out?
That's been variable. Sometimes it's, they need to downsize. A couple times it's been, older families that want to downsize because the kids have left. Or in one case, the house is literally falling down around. They've lived in the house for 30 years and they've put zero work into it, and it's falling down around. It's falling down around them, and they dip back into it. They should have paid it off by then, but they've dipped back in to take equity out years ago, and they're still paying that, or to take money out, and they're just paying that back, and so they want to be away from they're just done. And then a couple cases actually have been. We've had, I think, 3 that are people that are in different stages of divorce, and so they're trying to figure out how to get out of the house and divvy all that up, but nobody's got money to bring to the table, and they're strapped for money. One of them had already modified the loan and stuff, so there was no room. There was no room for even like a short sale negotiation.
Right. So let me ask you this. Do you have relationships with any realtors or anything? Are you a realtor yourself?
I'm taking the course right now.
Okay. I was going to say, otherwise, what I used to do, and I've known people have done, they befriend a brand new realtor or an old salty dog because they're always looking for leads, right? So sometimes you can get them to, I know by law they're not supposed to share any referral money, right? But sometimes I've seen it where people actually work together and they, once you get your license, you could at least list it, right? If it's that tight, and get a chance to do some monetizing of the available money, right?
Yeah.
So, Tell me, Lee, you bought a few houses so far? Are you just getting started, or?
Bought one. We're in the middle of renovating it.
Oh, good.
So, and then we've come close on a few more times, but it's just been each of them, the ones that have had a real big need, that have really wanted to get out of their house. It's just been they've owed too much on it. So.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is how are you doing with those who still have about the available equity? Are you able to make most of those work, or some of those work, or what's going on with those?
So we haven't. I haven't had many deals where they've had the equity. I haven't had any opportunities where there's been equity that they could make it happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or except for maybe, I guess there were two cases, but those houses were basically ready to retail. So they weren't going to give up the equity, what they had, and if they were calling around, they wanted the quick exit in the convenience. Actually, in both the cases I'm thinking of, they didn't want to deal with. They wanted to be able to buy another house without having a contingency on selling theirs. And so they wanted that convenience, but they weren't willing to give up. They would have given up maybe 5%. They weren't going to give up 35%.
Yeah. How much are you spending on advertising?
Right now, $5,000 a month.
How many leads are you getting for that?
I forget off the top of my head right now. It's oscillated. It was much more steady the first 2 months, and then March was really down, and April was really up, and May. So
what do you average? Is that 10 leads or 20 leads for the 5,000? Or
yeah,
5?
10. I think 10 to 15.
Okay, so 10 to 15. So, and the rest of the guys around you, are they spending a lot more, or the same, or what?
So I'm in the New Hampshire market, so it's just north of Boston. So for that market, there's a couple people spending about what I'm spending. There's somebody, I forget. There's one group that spends considerably more, 2 or 3 times as much, and then 2 that spend about the same, and then there's several that spend in the 2,000 or 3,000 range. We also kind of expanded recently, so there's when I started, I was the 9th franchise, and we're up to 14, I think, for the next. So, and then we actually made a life decision in that we're actually moving, so we're going to move our franchise to Western Mass, and we're opening up the Springfield market starting in June. So it's going to be a change of everything. The market's going to be much different there, and it's going to be a learning experience in that way. But I think it's going to be a really healthy market for the home investor business.
Good for you. So how are you going to start there with your advertising?
We're starting with the same 5,000, and it's going to be
all direct mail?
Mostly direct mail. A little bit for the national campaigns, but all direct mail. It's about 6,200 mailers we're going to get out in the first mailing in June.
That's good. Very good.
Yeah, we're hoping that'll be like the same 10 to 15 leads per month. But it's a really ripe market, so I don't know. It could actually there's a fair bit of distress out there. So
different price points too, or are they all about the same price retail?
The 2 different markets. It's a little bit lower in Western Mass. It's going to depend on where the lead comes from a little bit. There's a little bit more dichotomy around around Springfield than there is in the southern New Hampshire. Southern New Hampshire, there's some real distressed areas in some of the cities, but then the towns outside of that it's like the 3,000 to 4,000 range instead of the 150 to 250 range. I think that's like like Manchester in the city, and then Springfield's about the same. Springfield's it's like 200 or less in a lot of the city, but then there's some nicer towns that surround it that have some higher valued homes.
So I would focus my advertising on the cheap stuff first.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're going to have they're going to, and not only that, but I got to tell you, is there kind of a ghetto there or not?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how do you feel about ghetto work?
That's where we're going to focus. At least I think that's where we're going to get most of our business out of. Yeah, we kind of tailored our mailers to by price and things that it's going to pick up from the distressed areas.
Great. So here's what I would focus on. I spent lots of years working with people and myself personally back in the day working what I call the war zones and the non-war zones. And so I learned this, though. A lot of times, do you have a wrapped car or anything?
Not yet.
No, that's okay. You may not want it. Because I used to have people in that area say to me, now, you're not going to have a sign on your car, are you? I go, oh, no, I can take them off. So I always use the magnetics. But here's the reason. So you get in there, and I always wore my lanyard around my neck. Remember that lanyard with your name?
Yep.
Gun training. I always wore that. I'd hang it on my mirror when I wasn't going, but I hang it around my neck. Because when you go into these zones, some are war zones, some are not, and there's always a lookout person or two kind of got their eye out the window. And I just show them, oh, yeah, I'm with Home Investors here. We do the houses. Okay, fine. They think you with that thing on the street, you're kind of like somebody who's from the city who works in the street. You follow me? So you belong there.
Yeah.
And I've also learned that I'd always arrange the meetings to be in the morning, till about noon, because let's face it, the junkies and the folks that do live in and around those areas, that's one of the reasons your people are moving, get up about noon and they start their shopping about 3 and they work through the next morning, so they're sleeping all morning. So I never had to worry about, just anything that was, to be afraid of people and their stuff. Whereas the afternoon, sometimes there's a lot more. But we bought lots of houses there, I'm telling you. And I remember the other group in Cleveland with us, they said, we're not going to that area. Hell, we ain't going to do that. I said, okay. But we bought lots of stuff. And here's how we bought it in that arena. We'd say to ourselves, okay, so let's see. If you have access to MLS, right?
Not yet, because I'm not, but I have Red Bell. But
okay, same. So I always used to say, and I'd click that so I could see the cheapest to the highest on how the properties in the respective little community I'm looking at are. So I knew the cheapest ones were always distressed property, right? After you see that a couple of times, you know that. So then I'd say, what are the cheap distressed properties going for? And I'd glance at them, see what they look like. If they're all going for, let's say, $40,000, then I knew I had to buy my house for 10 to max 20. Then I'd have a place to turn that real quick. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd put it all in the value check. We had to do it on paper at the time, but nevertheless, I'd put it all in there. And I'd literally always end up showing where they owed me money to take it off their hands. I'd apologize, and I felt bad, and I said, this is just the way it is, what's needed here to fix this. This is what they're saying. So, but I'd apologize. I'm so sorry. I thought it would be more, and I hoped it was, and I'm sure you're not happy either. So what can we do? And they'd say, I don't know, what we can do? We got to have something. Well, what are you thinking you got to have? Well, they said $10,000, well, let me see if I can get that for you. And I'd try and move them down a little, even regardless of what was happening. A lot of times they'll take it. They'll take that smaller number. Or if I go out to my car and look at it, let me think about that. Let me go to call our people, go out to my car and call myself and say, what can we do? And I come back and say, well, I'll come up a little bit. You want 10,000 more than you want the 20, and the company says 10. But how about if we can get you up to another, 1,000, 1,500? Would you take that? A lot of times they'll go for it. They're just looking for a little negotiation, a little bit of a win. Then you write the contract, and then you go do an assignment. Now you say, where do I find my buyers now, right? I don't want to be married to this thing that's needs all this work, and it's in this area. Well, as you're driving through there, you're going to see for rent signs. And usually you're going to find there's what I call kind of ghetto landlords I could have 100, 200 houses, 300, 10, 20, 30. And I get all those for rent signs and get their names and phone numbers. And I start calling them. And remember this, everybody you talk to as a landlord is either a buyer or a seller now or in the future, right? And if they're running Section 8, which a lot of them are, they just want to make something work, and they got their collectors that go out weekly, monthly, whatever, to get all the extra money from the Section 8, or Section 8 just covers it. So that can be a beautiful market. Because I got to tell you, I know of all the houses, we had like 63 contracts that year, and gosh, 35, 40 of them come out of that kind of a market. We end up averaging 10.8 on the deal at the end of the year, 10.8 on all those deals.
Mm-hmm.
So not a bad play.
Nope.
Yeah, and so I say be unafraid of that. The wonderful thing about sitting with those customers is you can just be honest with them, and you can say, hey, look, I don't know this market like you do, this little community. I'm in a lot of different communities here, but so tell me, over the years, has it stayed about the same? Have the values kind of gone up or gone down? I know they went down, but I need them to tell me, right? So it's kind of a easygoing him-hoy. They going kind of up or down or stayed flat or what? Oh, God, they're going down. So, well, tell me, what's kind of causing that? All these people and their drugs. Oh, man, I'm so sorry. So where are you going to go? And usually they're going to go move with grandchildren in the burbs, or they're going to go across, whatever. Oh, that sounds like a really good idea. Great. Tell me about them little babies, your grandbabies, and have them tell that whole story. Because once they tell their stories, their personal stories, that's where they're building trust. You follow me? So rapport is one thing, having a nice discussion at first. I'm kind of wandering here. Forgive me for having ADD. And then over on the other side, real trust is built when they tell you their personal story. Well, their family. Now, we guys aren't used to talking about that stuff, right? I know that because my wife always tells me I'm the most worthless at small talk she's ever seen in her life. I only want to talk about a business idea. I said, okay. But I listened and learned, and I learned when I'm with the customer, I'm going to be in the small talk business and find out about the children, and find out about their daughters and their sons and brothers and families and how they doing, and are they being helped out, and I don't know, hope this will help you out. So it's a real gentle sit around, relax, and meeting like that. Is that kind of making any kind of meaningful sense?
Yeah, have you ever seen the show Better Call Saul?
Yeah.
It's the Jimmy approach.
Yeah. Well, years ago, you're going to find this goofy. But years ago, when I used to hire people for Schwann's and for the Tony's Pizza division, we'd have them calling on grocery stores and taverns. I always learned to hire people who were used to working 10, 12 hours a day, right? Because if you hired the average sales guy, he's worth about 3-4 hours a day. Otherwise, they're in the bar, right? It's just the way it is. So then I'd have to give them some kind of technique. And truthfully, I never liked selling because I thought it was people were lying, because most of the people that tried to sell me things were lying. And so I never wanted to be in that realm or thought of that way. That's why I learned to really use my tools, my prop, and my flip chart, so that I was representing something way bigger than myself. And I used to watch Columbo. Remember that? I don't know if you ever knew those shows way back when. It was a detective show called Columbo. And I used to tell people, watch 3-4 of them shows and see how he's exaggerated. But that's really what you need to be, kind of a him-haw, don't know, gosh, like to try this, what do you think? And if they say something controversial to you, like you're what kind of politics? Well, I don't know. It depends on the day. I get confused. So you're just in neutral in Switzerland all the time. But it gets to be kind of fun after a while, because you're just sliding to what's. Somebody said to me, well, gee, Larry, that's manipulating. I said, no, I'm manipulating me to be what that person needs. I'm not manipulating them. So anyway. Am I going by? somebody had a truck go by, huh?
I was going to say, somebody's on the freeway.
I say that.
Not like an afterburner.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Hope it's not an airplane. Ooh. Better Call Saul. God, that's a good one. I'm sure you saw Breaking Bad then too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, just some of the best movie stuff you could.
But it's the Jimmy approach. You meet with the people, you help them where their pain is, you get them to love you for being you, and then they give you all the business.
And that doesn't mean being totally serious, does it?
No.
It means having a little fun, talking a little crap on yourself, and being kind of clumsy and not too perfect. Yeah, I never thought of that. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll use that. Because I tell a lot of people about Columbo, they haven't heard of it or they whatever. But I had never thought of the Jimmy approach. That's funny. That's so funny. That's good stuff.
I got my secret weapon, though.
All right. What's your secret weapon?
I bring my wife.
Oh,
she takes care of it all.
Yeah, they hear something different than you, right? And you kind of share the idea. Great idea. Yeah.
She can just make a friend with anyone.
Well, there you go. That's the game, because we want to make a friend, because when we call back a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever we said, we want to talk about something personal right away, right? Before we get into have you done anything with the house yet? You have to be casual and cool. Good. Well, that's exciting. How far is this Springfield from you that you're moving to?
It's about 2 hours. So
not bad.
My wife grew up out there.
Oh, good.
So,
oh,
yeah.
Hey, you're going home, man. You can't beat that. That's awesome. That's good for everybody. Good for you.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so you're going to be in this pretty full-time then, right?
What's that?
You're going to be in this pretty full-time then if you're moving over there. You got another job lined up also?
Well, yeah, I still have my quote-unquote day job, but I'm trying to work my way out of it as quickly as I can.
Gotcha. Will you be able to do that over there too, or are you going to have to run back and forth?
Yeah, it's I work out of the house, so I have flexibility.
Beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So here's what I want you to keep in mind. Keep that as long as you can until you got 6-8 months of money and plenty of advertising, plenty of living expense moved up, right? Because I've seen a lot of people in the past get talked, they listen to the other franchisees and they're all wonderful people. But sometimes they're like a bunch of boys at a bar, they're talking smack. And, oh man, get rid of this, get rid of that, pay this up, pay that up. They don't understand because you're not going to tell them what your exact finances and how things work and how that all is. And you certainly never want to run the family short of money. That puts undue pressure on you. So on one side of the coin, I say, congratulations, yeah, I worked to a full time. But on the other side of the coin, I say, you keep this, you got 6, 8, 10 months money build up for total coverage of advertising, family needs, all that, without shorting them, so you can operate with ease. Because otherwise you're operating under some kind of pressure bringing in the money, and you don't buy right because your mind is just not staying relaxed and caring like you need to be. You start inadvertently caring for yourself, and that just doesn't work as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We just want to get everything established and up and running first, obviously. Yep. So once it's running smoothly and on a regular basis, because I understand what you're saying. On the other side too, though, it's difficult to have your allegiances, but also your mind split between different things, and trying to switch and go back and forth. It makes it difficult too. So you can make the same kind of mistakes, or I don't buy things because I am too afraid of the time crunch on things.
That's right. There are two sides, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. So what else we need to visit about? I sure appreciate you participating today. Yeah.
This is Michael in Chicago. How are you?
Hey, good, Mike. Yourself.
Enjoyed the conference with you. Just wanted to say got a lot out of you during training, so I've used some of your plots and info. Doing really good. I'm in North Chicago with a lot of appointments. I just falling into a lot of the same thing with the people who are just no equity in their houses.
Sure.
You know, their big thing is taxes are so
8 out of
high.
10 are going to be that way, aren't they? Absolutely.
Yeah, and Alan's was helping me out to make sure he's been great with the support. My DA, making sure I did the right comps, and usually I have been doing them, but that's one of my big issues. The other one is I'm dealing with a lot of 4 or 5 people, with one house, the siblings and the cousins and, the trust. So then, it's like a circle. You talk to them and, I got to talk to my brother. I got to talk to him. He doesn't want it. She doesn't want it. So I can't, it's hard to get all the decision makers together.
Yeah, you're right.
I got about 8 of those, and they're all really good houses, too.
Uh-huh.
And so, all you do is just keep following up. Just don't let up. Just keep on it.
That's it. And here's what I used to do. I try and arrange it. Can you have them all here on a Saturday morning or something? We can just spend an hour hearing everybody's stuff. And then let them all say, and I remember being in several arrangements like that, and my partner Gilry was with me at the time, and the lady was hard of hearing, and he was talking to her about the kitchen and what she thought it would cost, and she was giving some answer, and he was going to tell her what he thought, and I bumped him, and I said, wait a minute, any of you folks ever, there's like 5 other people, do any folks ever look what a kitchen would cost here? Somebody shouted out, yeah, it's going to be at least $12,000. I said, wow, you've done your research. No. Then somebody, how about that bathroom? Well, that's going to be at least $5,000. Ooh, you have done the research. I knew I could do it for less, but now they're telling, right, they're giving me space. So there's some advantage. And I used to tell the executors, usually the executor of the group, I say, look, some folks, like that position. Some folks hate it because you're not going to be able to please anybody. And you want to maintain a family relation, so let's bring them all together if we can, or if it's just 1 or 2, let's get them on the phone and you be here. We'll tell them the same story so I can answer questions maybe that, otherwise they're going to expect you to have answers you might not be able to have, and you feel bad, and, maybe they trust you, maybe they don't. You know how it is with families. Some do, some don't, some will, some won't. So we're all in the kind of catch-22. So that has been effective. You have to, like you said, patient. But if you can get them together or get the decision makers
I've had a few where I had, like 2 were there and 2 were on a conference call, and that was kind of tough, and they all started fighting. So that.
Oh, yeah.
I just sat there and shut up. Other ones there was 5 were with me, and all 5 of them were yelling at me, and I felt like, okay, let me put out one fire at a time. And they're just ganging up on me, and that was really hard. I almost wish I had somebody with me to kind of fire back,
Well, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with what you're saying, and you're not doing anything wrong either. Sandler would say, when they're coming at you, your mission is to just fall back, right?
Yeah.
And almost be apologetic. Yeah, I'm sorry you feel it, and just let them finish.
Yeah.
So because any interruption reloads the gas tank, right? So let them run out of gas. And just be the humble soul. Then they'll actually feel bad. Somebody's going to apologize for you. You haven't listened to stuff. Say, I just didn't know. I'm just here to try and make some sense out of everything. Don't say we have all the answers, but, most importantly, the company will show up with the money on closing day, and, hopefully we can bring this together somehow. What are usually their concerns? Different costs for fixing it up and all that?
We could get more money than that. Those games, and okay, all right. Well, I always say, you called us in as a discount buyer. I didn't say I'm going to be the best offer. I'm just probably the most reliable and most credibility, and
Well, tell them you got a company. Tell them the difference. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I also say this is part of the company. I say, what can I do for you? What do you need from me? What can I order you pizzas every day for a month? What do you want from me is what I say, kind of just to hold the deal. What else can I do for you? Or, how do you think it's going to be different? I mean, what kind of like what's a magic number? And you got two people 20,000 away, where one sibling's okay, the other one's like, no, we can get 20,000 more, and you're dealing with like $80,000 house, which is a big markup.
Well, so you're right. Then you almost want to kind of really settle in and say, so let's see, 20,000 more. What's that going to do? Is that something you have to do with the house, or I know. I'd ask this: does that have to do with the house, or does that have to do with how you're going to split it up, or what does that really mean? I mean, we know what it means, but if they tell us,
okay, yeah,
because then they can explain,
Yeah, how is that?
And then you can say something
to make up.
Yeah. What's that? So that's five. Is each going to get some, or is there something specific you have to cover, and you're looking for that kind of money? It's a kind of gentle ask that way. And then something to the effect that, because I had dealt with this with a family of 10 one time, and there was an extra 30. We could list it and get 30,000 more. Da 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 da. And I said, well, you could. Now let's make sure we subtract the cost of the listing, which is 3%. Let's make sure we subtract the cost of the selling side, which is 3%. And if it's an FHA buyer, that could be, that's a federally guaranteed fund for new buyers to come in, new families. They get in for 3.5%, but that could cost you or me, if I got to do the selling, up to 6%. So there's some costs here. We all think, and then there's 2-3% closing costs. So, sometimes you don't get all that. So my help here today is to hopefully kind of give you the information so you can make a really well-informed decision so you don't have any bad surprises on closing day. So speaking of closing, when did you want to close if you were to move forward? I know you're not going to, but if you were to move forward, when did you want to close? They're going to give you, so it's great. It takes normal closing time for the title office. Usually takes them about 30, sometimes a little longer, but, we'll work with them, see what we can do. That's their stuff. So you want to have this next month or 2 months from now or 3 months from now, or what are you thinking? Oh, no, we want to, well, okay. So, you could put it on. You got 5 of you or 10 of you all make $3,000 more, and it may sell in 60, 90 days, or it may not. So I don't know when you want the money. If you want the money now, maybe we'll all make a little sacrifice, get our cash, and go invest it someplace else. Maybe you got things. So what are you going to do with your money? And I ask, well, I'm going to buy a new car. Okay, well, you feel, maybe you want to wait 3-4 months. The most important thing that I want to leave with you here today is, I don't know if this will work. It's got to make some sense for you as a customer. And here's what you got to keep in mind, Mrs. Jones and crew here. The company will show up with the money.
Yeah, I've used that.
Yeah, and let them know and say there's all kind of other folks out there. I'm not saying they're good or bad, because they're just, you hear all the stories. But our company will not make a promise. Yeah, our company can't make a promise we can't keep. And you say, well, how's that? Well, you'll call the 800 number. That's not the reason, but we got strict systems and standards. So you're tagged with us. We can't get away from you. So.
Okay.
And I don't know about you, but most people I know got way more faith in the company than Johnny Investor over there, and he's going to try and do something with it. And here's what happens to some of them. I'm not saying it's going to happen every time, but they'll make a promise to go try and market it, even to somebody like me, and it don't fit our numbers. And then they just don't show at the closing time. So if you got time and you don't mind a couple closings falling through, take this out 3-4 rounds, hell, do it. Yeah, or better yet, let's pick it up.
Are some of our competitors, are they giving earnest checks for the most part, or just small earnest checks, do you know?
Yeah, teeny ones. They put them in, you mean? Put in teeny earnest checks? Yeah.
And there's no type of any type of lawsuit they could bring up if somebody doesn't come forward after they sign a contract? Or is it just not worth the sellers? It's not the seller, because I really don't know. I'm learning all this still.
Absolutely good. So if I put let's say I'm a Johnny Investor. I could put up a $500 earnest check, right? I'll tell you, I'll put $500 earnest money. But
okay,
if I don't show at closing time, I just lost my $500. Or I give it a 7-day look period, right? If I don't show, I get it back. I get 7 days to look, and I get my money back. If I don't, I just lost my $500. Because over on the other side of the street, somebody could have made me an offer, and I said, I'll blow up that $500 for a better offer here. So
and that's what they do. Yeah.
There's all kind of games. That's the blessing.
And
When
also,
I saw this system, yeah.
I've never used the FHA in a sales comparison. Is that something you suggest we could do?
Well, I think you always want to, my job here, let's say you're the customer, my job here is to help show you what can happen and what may or may not happen so you can make a really well-informed decision. So I always said, now let's take this out a couple of steps. We said this is what it's going to cost to fix the house, right? We saw that the system told us. So let's keep this in mind. The truth is, if you wanted to do the work yourself and you had the time and you had the money, the truth is you'd make more money. But let's keep in mind as we're doing that, let's look at the cost. Whether you do the house and resell it to retail or I do the house and resell it to retail, here's some costs either of us is going to have. A, we got the listing of 3%. We got the selling side of 3%. And I'd say, what is that? Oh, that's 6. Okay, 6%. Now then, most houses of this nature are going to get what they call an FHA buyer. That's a family where the government has helped them. They can get in for 3.5%. And now the blessing is when the government helps, that means whether you're fixing the house to sell it or I am, we get to help, right? So they call on the seller to call up 6%. So what are we at? We're at 6, 12, and you got closing costs. So you see the story I'm building, but it's a true one. Will it be exactly 6? I don't know that. So when they start looking at that, suddenly it's not as attractive because they're going to have all these expenses coming out the gate, right? Yeah. So it's just the sharing.
Well, it's very realistic in the areas of North Chicago where I'm buying houses for $20,000, $30,000. You know.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And hey, and then you can tell them, fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of folks in this style of house, they put the earnest money with the realtor, a little bit of nothing, and then they can be qualified. Then just before closing, sometimes somebody goes off and buys furniture, or they go off and buy an automobile, and now their so-called debt-to-income ratio falls apart. They can't get the house. You know what they say? Sorry, it won't work. Now then, you say, well, I can sell it right away again. Yes, you can. You're going to put it back on the market. Could take another couple of weeks to just a month to sell. And then it's going to take 30 days to close. FHA is 30 to 45 days. So, you know, if you've got the time and you don't mind all the other things in between that can kind of ruffle your feathers, it's probably a way to go. Because I want them to tell me, no, I'm not going to do that. And that's what they say. Oh, sorry, I should have been paying better attention. How should we do this then? I'm just a dummy.
Yeah. Great.
What did you say the guy's name was? Jimmy? Jimmy.
Yeah. I watch that show too.
I love it.
Yeah.
Are you watching Billions then too? All right. So what else we got? I appreciate the conversation.
Somebody in a restaurant now? It sounds like a restaurant kitchen out there.
Only in America, right? Only in America.
I'm hitting golf. I'm hitting golf balls. Sorry.
Oh. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So what else we need to talk about?
I kind of addressed the things that were my issues this month, I guess.
I appreciate it. That's a good way to do it. Just appreciate it month by month, and we work through it. And
I reached out to Britt. You know, that's our other support guy, because I was looking for some video. They do a lot of voice stuff that I listen to, and I was trying to find something with follow-ups. You know, some better scripts for when you follow up, like a week later, 2 days later.
So great.
I don't know if there's anything on Ugville or anything like that. I'm trying to make my own script, you know.
So keep this in mind. When you're in there, you're going to be taking notes, right?
Yes.
Yes, the person. Do you mind if I grab a note or two? My memory's good, but it's a lot better if I support it with a note, and I certainly don't want to forget something you might say. So I'd take a note or two, and I'd take the notes or two about the personal stuff.
Yeah, I do that.
They talk about their children. So when you call them back then, well, how's John doing? Is that back still bothering him, or was he able to get that fixed? God, I felt so bad for you. You follow me? Or
yes, I do.
how's your gymnastic lady gal doing? You know, it's all personal because that's what you're creating a friendship that day, knowing that you likely won't buy the house that day anyway, which is okay. So you're not putting any pressure on yourself. And you're making a friend. Because somebody said, well, if I do that and I'm not focused on buying the house, I'll forget what I'm at. I said, no, you won't. If they indicate buy, I'm sure you'll light right up and write the contract. So stop worrying about that. So, but because you want to call them back as a friend, right?
Yeah, I do a voice memo after every appointment now, and I put it in their file.
Oh, cool.
So I could listen to 3-4 minutes of what the appointment was, and he likes fishing. He wants to move to Colorado. He likes muscle cars. So then I'll call back, and that's how I'll start the conversation.
Beautiful stuff. That's good stuff.
It's pretty easy to do through Google Voice or eVoice, or even an iPhone memo video.
You're way more advanced than I am. That's good stuff right there. Good.
Well, I learned it from the guys in California. That's what Corey and them do. They do a lot of that stuff. They're very technical.
Cool.
So, yeah, okay.
Remember this. We're in the people consultative psychology business. We just get paid really well.
Yeah.
So the more time you can spend with them and make a friend so they can, sometimes you get a referral, even if you can't do, I used to tell people this, I'd say, hey, as you're kind of going down the road, you might have, we look at 8 to 10 to buy one, so it don't got to be this one. As you're going down the road, somebody might say to you, hey, did you ever do any business with them ugly house people? And you can say, the numbers didn't quite work for me, but at least they told me the truth. And I go, so is that kind of something you're looking for? And they go, yeah, that's what we want, the truth. But I set the stage, and sometimes you'll get a referral, even if you can't buy the house. Because everybody knows people with problems, and problem people know other people, right? It's just the way it is. Different circles.
Definitely.
So real net. Always leave 3 or 4 cards on the table accidentally. Give them one and drop a couple others. Because I've had it happen many times, and with other people too. They call in the 800. Why'd you call? Oh, I forgot your card. I lost your card. Well, we know what happened. Somebody came through the house and picked up one of the cards, which is great. So you never know, right? So
no, you never know.
Yeah, don't be stingy with the cards. They're cheap. You never know. And make sure if you don't have the shirts with your name, that's okay. Use this lanyard thing you got at Homevestors for training. Wear that all the time. That kind of makes you look real earthy. And it's got your name, and here's the beautiful thing about it. People are going to befriend you a lot quicker if they can say your name. Like you and I, we may introduce ourselves to somebody, and pretty soon we forgot their name. How awkward do we feel? We're trying to, But if yours is right out in front of them, they start calling you by your first name, well, they're befriending, right?
Yeah, I've noticed that. They look down at my badge and they go, Michael.
Yeah.
So it does definitely help. And a few times they didn't open the door until they saw my badge because they're like, who are you?
Yeah. That's why this lanyard thing works really slick because it's kind of like city people would wear, right? You see them with a lanyard and their keys and their identification badges and all that. So I found this really worked well. Because they looked at it the same way. Oh, he must be, he's got to be okay. He wouldn't be wearing that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
All right. Well, appreciate your help with all this. Thank you.
Yeah, good discussion. Enjoyed it. We went off a few different directions. We had good ADD, shared some thoughts and some ideas. But, hey, feel free to email me or call me anytime, guys. Here's my cell phone if you want to. Yeah. 503-705-5883. So enjoy the visit and hope you all do really well. And what the hey, stay posted.
Definitely.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot. Cool. Thanks a lot, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
You bet. Take care.
Take care.
You bet. Thank you. Bye-bye.